There was just no organizational sort of nothing to do with staff. I mean, everybody was all over the place, and staff ended up getting, they were burnt out quite quickly. They would come and go as they pleased. There was no staff meetings, and it made it very hard for balance or any type of development projects, or it was really difficult having staff that sort of lost that spunk or that care. And it's just one of those things that I think the GM should have been more attuned to, and maybe made up a schedule even, or weekly meetings, or anything to sort of keep the staff members involved. Because when you went in on staff, I gave myself stuff to do. I would either sit and watch players. I'd go through inventories, I would go through bank accounts, I would see who was, doing this and who was doing that, and I'd learn a lot about the players. Or I would be doing quests, or I would be building land, but I would literally give myself stuff to do to keep myself busy. But I would see staff come in twiddling their thumbs and have no idea, and so then they would lose interest. And you lose interest when you hear appeals that are always so negative, and the whole game is so negative. You get to a point where you just don't even feel like doing anything anymore for anybody.
Yeah, that's a tough environment to work in for sure. So was everyone a volunteer, or did they eventually hire people that would stay around long term and actually make an impact on the game and actually pay them, or how did that work?
No, it was all volunteer. I guess we got a payment of free membership, a whole $10 a month. Yay, go us.
And does being a staff member make playing the game different for you? You mentioned that you kept your kind of code of silence, if you will, pretty secure and never really told anyone. Do you feel that it had any kind of adverse effect on playing the game for yourself? Did it make it more fun or difficult in any way?
No, not really. Because I was really good at that. Once I took off one hat and put on the other hat, so to speak, I would completely get into my character role, and that was just who I was. I didn't rely on any of my staff knowledge, and I refused to. If, for example, when Idols, that's why a lot of times people would get so mad at me whenever I wouldn't do as Elysian. I wouldn't do like idle runs or anything, because I refused to, because I didn't want that to interfere with my knowledge because I knew where they were, I knew everything about it, I knew the areas, and I just thought that was unfair. So that was something I personally did. I mean, I know players never notice that, and probably not even other staff members, but it's just something I made sure that I stayed away from things that were new, or any of that type of stuff.
Gotcha. So let's change gears a little bit. So tell me, I know you mentioned the quest system and how you like to be a writer for quests. What was the draw for you to create quests in Darkness Falls?
I think it was sorry, I'm just reading the chat there.
That's okay.
Jacket. No, it's not true. Whoever you are, no.
Oh, that don't listen to him. That's just silly old Holocaust. You might remember him.
Oh, okay, right. I do. Um, so sorry, what was the question again?
um,
Right, quest, yeah.
right. Yeah. What was it about Quest that you enjoyed, or anything in particular about the DFC or the mythic, if you will, Quest kind of system? The tools that you had to create quests. Like, what are your comments on? Was it easy to create a quest? Was the system, did people even know there were quests, in the game?
Yeah, I think because that added a little bit to the playing experience. If you got bored, hunting all the time or idols or something, and to me that would give you something else to look forward to, and maybe pick up a good piece of gear, if that was possible in DFC. Um, and it was just yeah, it was just to add a different playing experience for the players. I liked doing them because I really liked that planning and the writing out the storyline, and just seeing what kind of twisted, cool little things I can do with it. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. I could have kept going and going with all of their empty. I think most of their lands were empty. So to a degree, there was lots of junk in there. That was the problem. So.
I see. Yeah. So, Son of Trump, aka Devilich, has a follow up, and he's wondering, can you comment? Was there a specific time when a lot of quests were abandoned or disabled?
Oh, there was so many quests. The logs that I sent you, if I sent in, or if you look at the database in there, you'll see I have them actually each individually marked, and so many were just abandoned. There was so much junk in there that the whole engine needed to be wiped because it was just crazy.
And was there anything to do with player abuse, or was that just the way the system was?
I think that was just the way the staffers worked. They would, like I said, they just got bored so easily. And a lot of times, staff would get excited, work on something, and then bam, they would just disappear. So then whatever they were working on would just, go to a halt and never get finished. So, my whole ultimate goal was I really, really wanted to bring back the quest for the guild quests. I really thought that would have made things a lot interesting when you leveled up his guild quests. And there was every single guild had guild quest, and that was one of the projects that I was actually trying to work with Anis's on, and I just couldn't seem to get her together with it. But and then there was a gazillion quests, believe it or not, in Cade alone. So yeah, those were my biggest. If anything, that's what I really wanted to get finished.
I see. And then, so do you think what would it have taken for that system to be cleaned up? What was kind of the ultimate problem or the hurdle?
Yeah, the GM. I was willing to do the work. I could have sat there for 20 hours a day working on it if I had to. But I had no problem with that. It was getting the GM to give the okay for it, basically. Because not only you have to think of the database, right? So when the quest, yeah, the lands were already taken, so each room, but then you had all the EPARMs and the ETOX and etc. So remember, that's all very precious database room for each of those quests. And basically, if you look over, almost all of the EPARMs and the ETOX and etc. were all taken. Okay, there was only literally a handful left. So if if, for example, I decided to do all of Cade's quests, well, that would take a huge uh, chunk out of that database. So it wouldn't leave room for other, if we decided to do something else. And that was part of the problem. It was trying to, there was lots of room for other stuff, but there wasn't room for other, things like the e-parms. But that's where we were trying to get Brian involved, and he just refused to expand it, the database. He said it was quirky and it was glitched and he'd have to rewrite it and et cetera, et cetera. Well, is his excuse.
Right. So, and then to kind of follow up on that a little bit, or kind of tie up the subject of quests, did you have ideas for things like the quest system, or even staff tools in general, that you feel would have improved the overall kind of being able to interact with as a staff member in the game?
No, not really. I don't think. I mean, right now, if you were to rebuild it today, as you're doing, possibly, possibly in the database have something completely separate for quests themselves, would probably make it a lot easier. I mean, instead of going through, you know, thousands and thousands of pages of text just to find something in the database is really time consuming. So if quests or if different things in the database were organized a little bit better, I think that would overall make things a lot easier for doing quests or doing events or any type of thing that you wanted to do.
Okay, let's change gears again a little bit. So I know that the majority of us as players contributed frequently to the subject of balance in the game. We were always constantly either complaining or throwing out kind of crazy ideas. What is your first kind of thought on the topic of balance in DFC? And was it achieved, do you feel, or was it not achieved? And what are the major kind of components for creating balance or dealing with problems related to balance?
Um, I think it. I think overall it was. I'll give you a couple points. One would be staff being biased. Number one. Number two would be balance was really obviously in the eye of the beholder, right? So I mean, people who thought chaos was off or chaos thought evil was off or et cetera, et cetera. It was from a staff point of view though, and someone who wasn't biased, I have to say that overall, I can understand where evil was. I always felt evil was a little bit overbalanced, but only because evil was original DF, and I understand that. I mean, the other two were thrown in, good and chaos, and into the mix, and basically that's all they did when they brought DFC up. So, in it's almost like they rushed DFC. If you think about balance. And but as far as balance in general between the realms and staff, as staff, obviously RMs were and the GM were very biased on their PC's realm. That's a given. I think this is a really important thing. I touched base a little bit about this is transparency. This is where I think it's important that staff is, if staff has a PC character, I think that everybody in the game should know that that is a staff member and that that is a PC. I really believe that. And because I think that would help in balance as well. And also the trust of the